Wait, are we gonna start with like an introduction here or something before we jump into the whiskey? Like,
Yeah, we could do that.
so,
Hey guys, it's Harrison from Crown Chai. I'm here today with Jesse Vida. Jesse Vida is the head bartender at Atlas Bar in Singapore. We're going to have a quick chat about kind of the state of the cocktail industry, what's going on in Singapore, and some quick tips on what to do if you're quarantined or stuck at home. I first met Jesse at Tales of the Cocktail. In 2015, we both did the Tales of the Cocktail Apprentice Program. And then from there, we stayed in touch. Jesse was a big advocate of me coming to New York and kind of initiated a job offer for me to come start training at Dead Rabbit and then eventually open Blacktail with him, where he at the time was the head bartender. So welcome, Jesse. Thanks for taking the time today.
thanks for having me, Harrison. It's good to talk. Good to catch up, my friend.
I came up with the idea of like chatting with bartenders and kind of just having a drink with bartenders because my roommate at Tales was from Italy, Raffaele, and I started talking to him in the beginning of this kind of COVID crisis, and he went very quickly from operating his bar to closing one of his bars to then being on total lockdown. And it was just good to connect with bartenders from all over the world. So that's kind of the goal. So really, I just wanted to have a drink with you, Jesse. It's not often that we get to see each other. And now that we have a little extra time, we get to kind of hang out and have a quick drink together, chat about what's going on and see your face. So I know you poured yourself a whiskey. What are you drinking?
Oh, well, I did. And actually, you'll appreciate this, Harrison, because I'm drinking a little Russell's Reserve.
Nice.
This is a selected barrel here, and it's from a little bar in Chicago called Lone Wolf, which was sent over from some of our mutual friends over there. So shout out to Greg and Christina Magro.
Very cool.
How about you?
I'm going to just make myself a quick cocktail that I've been enjoying. It's like an Americano variation. I add some malic acid and salt, and then a little Barolo Quinato instead of sweet vermouth, and some Campari. I top it with soda. Just like 3/4 of an ounce. I don't know the mils in that. Maybe you could help me out. But nice little kind of daytime drink. It's daytime for me, nighttime for you. So
Yeah, 3/4 is like 20 mils ish. I don't know the exact translation to that, but it's some of it doesn't translate quite directly. But I mean, it is kind of perfect what we're both drinking here, Harrison, because I am in Singapore and I'm exactly 12 hours ahead of you. So you're having a nice daytime aperitif. I'm having a nice post-shift stiff glass of bourbon. Cheers to you, brother.
So yeah, tell me about what's going on in Singapore. I know you guys experienced a little bit of this kind of pandemic before we did, and it seemed to have subsided a little bit. Just wanted to talk about your experience with this, what bartenders and bars are doing in Singapore, and just have a quick chat.
Cool, man. Well, yeah, I guess I'll start at the beginning. Obviously, this all started in China, and I live in Asia, so it was much closer to home for me when it first started, for myself and the whole community out here in Asia Pacific. And yeah, I mean, it was pretty bad from the jump with China. I mean, it got pretty crazy. And Singapore is a small country. It's, there's about 6 million people who live here. It's pretty cut off. I mean, it's basically an island. It's slightly connected to Malaysia. So it was pretty easy isn't the word, but it's much easier to control than, a place like the United States or New York. I mean, I think the metropolitan area of New York is about 20 million or something. And that's, just one part of a state of many states there. And so when it first happened, the effect for us in Singapore was business slowed down a little bit. It wasn't drastic though. And it was kind of over time, right? Because this happened towards the outbreak first started getting reported on towards the end of 2019. And then, it just kind of kept growing and it kept getting worse in China, and people started to get a little more nervous. They started shutting down borders in China. And then, a lot of countries started shutting down Chinese nationals from being able to visit. At first, just started in one part of China, and then it just became like the whole country. But honestly, for the most part, it was business as usual in Singapore. I mean, I would venture to guess that, businesses were losing maybe 10%, which isn't anything to scoff at, but it's not going to shut you down. We still had people traveling through. Singapore relies a lot on tourism, and we still had a lot of people coming in from all over the world, a lot of tourists coming through. And it was kind of fun. It seemed like we were totally sustaining, and everything was good. And it was, it was like no peep from Europe and from the States. I mean, I would only imagine, and maybe you can fill me in a little bit, that when it was first being reported to everybody out there, it was kind of like, oh, this is like an Asia thing. It's not really something happening here. And it was probably being discouraged to travel to Asia and stuff like that, which I understand, because I do remember like when the SARS thing happened some time ago. I mean, I was fairly young, but I remember being in the States and thinking like, oh, SARS, that's a thing happening in Asia. It's not really a thing happening here so much, And yeah, I mean, it obviously so rapidly progressed for you guys in the States and for Europe and what's happening in Italy. I mean, New York right now is really going through it. And yeah, I mean, it just continued to be like a slow, steady decline generally in business here. And the last 4 days have just been really intense, probably similar to what you guys went through right before, you went to a lockdown. We are not currently in a lockdown right now, but many venues have been forced to close depending on like what kind of license you have. Luckily for us, we do have a restaurant license as well as a bar license, so we cannot operate as late as we usually would, but we are still currently able to operate as of today. But like the social distancing rules get more and more intense every day, and we're at a point right now where literally every guest has to sit at least 1 meter or 3 feet away from each other. So even like at the bar, if there's a two top, like they're sitting quite apart from each other. And we've just majorly limited. We Atlas has 150 seats. Like we're a fairly high volume place, and so that wouldn't count standing or events on the stage or like other areas like that. But yeah, man, I mean, it's getting tough out here. I mean, it's really like, it's not as scary with like a massive rise in numbers of infected people with COVID-19 here. But, at this point, you cannot like travel into Singapore. They're no longer taking like from any country. You have to be a Singaporean national to come here, or you have to be a pass holder that works in essential jobs, so healthcare or something like that. I personally have friends that are visa holders, longtime visa holders in Singapore, who happen to be out of the country, a couple weeks ago, and they have not been allowed re-entry at this time. So yeah, it's getting crazy. And I mean, it's like, who knows, we could be shut down tomorrow. We could be shut down next week. We could continue to operate in a minimalized capacity for some time, but we're just playing it by ear, and we're just trying to keep as much staff employed as possible and keep paying members of the team as much as possible and keep the business afloat.
Yeah, so you've seen, if you're not a restaurant in Singapore, you're just solely a bar, you're now closed.
Correct.
Have you seen any of those bars do any creative things, from like cocktails to go or like online training or Instagram live stuff? I just, I kind of inspire a lot of people all over the world to stay connected and stay motivated throughout this whole thing and not get discouraged even though bars are closed. I think that there's a lot of things bartenders could still do every day to keep themselves occupied and not kind of drown in just a couch or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people working in bars also have been working their asses off without many breaks or vacations or holidays for many years. So maybe take a couple of days on the couch, just relax a little bit, watch some Netflix. But I hear what you're saying. And yes, it is super important that we're staying engaged, we're staying connected. And I think, like what you said, and it's a cool idea you have here, because something that has advanced the culture of cocktails and bartending in bars and restaurants so rapidly over the last 10 years is like the global connection. the guest shifts, the traveling, the seminars, the bar smarts or whatever the courses you can take online. So yeah, staying engaged is certainly important. Yeah, I mean, a lot of things you mentioned is what we've seen here so far. Like, people are doing to-go cocktails that close. Something that's a bit unique to Singapore is the community is very tight. It's kind of like, like Chicago, like when you were out there, they always had like a super, super tight community. It's very similar like that in Singapore, where it's like, the rising tide raises all ships. There's really not a lot of competition here. We're really all like in it to win it together. And we actually have a Singapore chat group, and it's been amazing. Like, it's just like the communication, everyone, as soon as any information comes out, like, hey, everybody, like, this is the permit you need to have. This is the license you need to have. These are the precautions, like who's still open, who's closed, how can we help? So it's been great in that sense. But to answer your question, I'm kind of rambling, but to-go cocktails, a little bit of education. I have seen some brands out here doing that. Like I saw Bacardi's team like put together kind of like a seminar, like a time with different timings where their different brand ambassadors were teaching on certain categories of spirit and things like that.
Very cool. And then as far as staff goes in Singapore, I'm assuming like a lot of other places, are people paid on salary, hourly? Like, are people nervous? Are people kind of going to get a little fear when it comes to like closing bars? Are people going to be financially unstable? How's that working for you guys?
Well, yeah, and I think the whole world feels financially unstable right now, and it's no different here. I mean, I can't speak for the bars that have closed, but I don't know if they had to let everyone go. I mean, that would be likely, but everyone is on salary here, and there is like a kind of like a lot of places in Europe, there's like a 10% service charge, which speaking for the bar that I work at, that all goes back to our staff, like our operational employees. So yeah, I mean, we're just, I mean, every day it's it's scary because it's so uncertain. How long is this going to go on for? When are things going to change? Are things going to get better? Or are they going to get worse before they get better? I mean, I think a lot of people are in a very similar position. I'm sure a lot of people have lost their jobs, and who knows? Nobody's really safe.
Just wanted to kind of keep this short and sweet and kind of catch up with you. Before you go, though, I would love if you could give one kind of home workout tip. I know you're very active on social media in terms of exercising, and honestly, it's very motivational for someone like me. And then also maybe a book or an online series that you would recommend for bartenders kind of stuck at home.
Yes. I saw you've been doing your push-ups, Harrison. Good work there. Yeah, I would say, I mean, especially for people who are like full on like stuck in their place, like can't even really go outside much. The easiest and greatest thing you can do is like 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats. Like do that every day. I know
100 push-ups, 100 squats.
100. I'm not, dude, not all at once. I mean, I can't do them all at once, but like I'm just saying, because like you can break it out. Like you're chilling on the couch, you're watching Netflix. Like hit 10 push-ups. 20 minutes later, hit 10 push-ups. Like do it till you get to 100. I think that's probably. I mean, I'm gonna start doing that. Because like out here, all the gyms have closed and everything, so you got to just kind of make it work. For a book, a great book where I'm slightly forgetting the title of this, but actually our old boss Jack McGarry from the Dead Rabbit and formerly Blacktail as well had recommended me, which it's a really great book on basically kind of management inspiration. Can't remember if it's start with the why.
Okay.
Something with the why. For some reason it's escaping me, but I recently read that, and it's a really, really great book on just connectivity and getting people to kind of like go towards one common goal.
We'll look up the title of that book and make sure to post it in the comments so you guys could check that out if you're interested. And again, Jesse, thanks for catching up. It was always good to see you. It's nice having a drink.
Real quick before we go, I just want to say, because like I feel like we're all kind of like doom and gloom and talking about some of the sad and the negative of this, but I think there are some positive things about this. I mean, just like how humanity is kind of like, showing a united front, because this is literally everyone in the world together against something that is against, us as humanity. And, when this does go over and when we move forward, we'll move into, a new world with new options. And I think everyone will really appreciate the opportunity to be able to